Welcome back to Legacy Leaders. This is Juan, the podcast for those who know success isn't the goal, but legacy is. This is where we talk about the standards you live by, the faith that anchors you, and the people who shape you when no one else could see the vision yet. Today's episode is about mentorship, not networking, not clout, not shortcut, real mentorship. The kind that corrects you before it celebrates you, the kind that prepares you for rooms you haven't entered yet. Because no leader rises alone, and no legacy is built in isolation. Shoot, man. I'm doing this one right now because I want to shout out to my mentors. I got three of them that guided me and pushed me, guided me to where I'm at and keep on helping me grow and build and, build success together as a team, and know that the ultimate goal is to leave a legacy, not just for our family, but for people out there who want to do the same thing we're doing, that want to push or some mentorship or some guidance to be able to do what they want to do and have that information to get them to that point, And for me, mentorship is everything, being able to have that person that's going to guide you, that's going to push you, that's going to motivate you, that inspires you, that shows you the way to get to where you want to be is super important, Like I just said, leadership and legacy is not built by itself, it's built with the team. And if you ain't got that team, guess what? You're not going to make it so far. You can only make it so far by yourself. In order to get to those higher levels, you need a team. No championship has been won by one single player. You need the whole team to be able to play in, offense, defense, and everybody put in the same work in order to get to that championship. We could talk about the Super Bowl, the World Cup, any sport that you decide or you want to play. You need that team on your back, and you got to help those players, and you got to motivate those players to be able to win that championship. And for me, mentorship is everything in life. Without mentorship, guess what? You don't have that guidance and you're going to keep on messing up. I'm not saying that you're not going to learn, but with mentorship, it's a shortcut, because you ain't got to go through everything that your mentors went through, and they can teach you those things before it gets into your life. And that's super important for me, that you can learn from other people's mistakes and not have to go down that mistake, but also get the knowledge from the person that's telling you the advice that they got for you, and that to me is super big. That's why I decided to do the mentorship. Shout out to my mentor Ben, my other mentor, unknown, but he's super important as well as for my growth in my leadership. And number one is my dad. That mentorship my father has given me to push me to be even better every single day, and gave me so much guidance to be able to grow and become the man I am today. Without him, I wouldn't become the man that I am. With his hard work ethic, his knowledge, everything that he has passed it on to me, and I keep on carrying that torch from my dad, and keeping going. It's super important. Let's get into the first one. Why is mentorship non-negotiable? For me, it's non-negotiable. You need a mentor. You want to become the best at something, you need someone to guide you. You need someone to push you, someone to show you the way and tell you when you're messing up. That's super important. That when you have someone who's going to teach you when you're messing up and pull you to the side and talk to you privately, tell you, hey, you know what, Juan? You're fucking up. Get your shit together. Get your head out your ass. And for me, sometimes we need that, because sometimes we can't even see it ourselves. We think we're doing something good, but in reality, we're not. We're messing up. And that mentor's going to come over here, pull us to the side and tell us, hey, you know what? You're messing up, bro. You need to get it together. Think about it, come back, and let's redo it. And that for me is super important, and not just that, like I'm saying right now, it shows you the blueprint, it shows you everything you need to know. So you ain't got to commit those same mistakes and be able to go hopefully farther than your mentor has. If not, both of you get to the same place you want to get in life. That's super important. Let's get into the first one. Every leader is a product of its environment, and that, every person you spend time with is an influence of your own life. Like, you can hang out with 5 drug dealers, you're going to become a drug dealer eventually, because that's the only life you're hanging out with 5 drunks, you're going to become the next one, but if you hang out with 5 successful millionaires, you're going to learn so much from them that you're going to eventually become a millionaire yourself, because you're going to understand, you're going to listen to all the advice that they got to tell you. You're going to listen to all the conversations they have, and you're going to apply all that advice, all that information into your own life. And guess what? It's going to lead you to the same success that they've had. And not only that, but you can ask them questions. Hey, man, this is the idea that I got. This is what I want to do. Can you help me out with this? And you know what? Real people that are successful, or people that are coming up, ain't going to push no one down. They want other people to have success in their own life. So they're going to guide you and tell you exactly what you need to do. But it's on you to put in the work in order to have the success that you want in life, because they're already successful as it is. So if you want to have the same success as them, you got to be willing to put the work in to get to the position they are in currently. being surrounded by negative people, you eventually become negative. You got to watch those people you hang out with, and sometimes it's people you love dearly, that you've hung out with or known for like over 14, 12 years, and they're like your friends. You think so sometimes, but they're so caught up with the same life they've been living, so that they've been doing the same thing over and over again, living for, I've said it, living for the weekend, waiting to go to the bar, go to the clubs, and go get drunk and waste their time. Eventually it gets old. Do you want to be 40, 50 years old still doing the same thing? Gonna go get drunk every single weekend, knowing that that's your life for the rest of your life until, you know, you're not here no more. And that to me is like super sad. Why not think of something better? Why not go find something better? Why not just live for the weekend, but live every single day and leave a legacy and impact people's lives and change people's lives. And same thing, you hang out with negative people, eventually you become negative, and having so much negativity in your life just brings you down, puts you in depression, makes you not want to do nothing because you're always going to be like, oh, if I can't do it, oh, I can't do it. And it's no point of living that life. You shouldn't have no sympathy for nobody in life, besides the kids, because those kids can't do nothing about their lives currently. And eventually, once we become 18, we all make the decisions of our lives that impact and give us, our results. And you can't feel bad for no one because everybody's put themselves in the situations they want to live. And you just got to move forward, hope them the best, give them the blessings. From there on forward, you can't do nothing about it. So you got to be able to shift yourself away from those people that have nothing to offer you. And it sounds harsh, but in reality, that's what it is. But we all have to offer someone something in order to, build stronger bonds. What can I offer my mentor? Is that, same thing he does for me. He guides me, pushes me, and same thing when I do the same thing for him. And we're on the same page of trying to grow and be successful and leave a legacy for other people, not just for our families, like I've said, but for other people out there that want that information, that want that impact in their life, that are looking or seeking to get what we're dropping, that knowledge we're dropping to people. And that's why we're doing. That's why it's so important to see who you're hanging out with, that impact that it has in your life. And sometimes, like I said, you got to get away from it. You got to be able to, you know what, I love you to death, but this is no good for me. I'm not going to do nothing with my life if I continue to be involved in this situation that I am currently. And like I said, friendship, relationships, families, it sucks. Sometimes it could be the family that keeps on pushing you down. Sometimes you got to say, you know what, I got to take my own journey. I got to go find something different in my life. And everything works in mysterious ways. When you're seeking, you find. And then you start finding all these people in your life that start pushing you, guiding you, motivating you, and wanting you to win just as bad as you want to win. And you help them as well, push them to get to the limits that they want to get to. And that's why it's so important to find those people and find that inner circle that influence you to do better every single day. Let's get into the next topic. Mentorship shortens time and sharpens character. You know what? That's, like I just said, they got the blueprint. They know what they've been through. They've lived it, and we haven't yet lived it. But they can give us the advice that we need in order to get to where we want to be. And guess what? If we ain't got to commit the mistakes and do that struggle they did, and they want to offer us advice and mentorship on those mistakes that they committed, well, why not take it? If someone's giving you the keys to success, why wouldn't you take it? I understand, yeah, they lived it and you haven't lived it yet, but you can learn from other people's mistakes. You can grab that knowledge and say, you know what, this is what he did, this is how it was. Okay, let me go through it. I'm not going to commit those mistakes. He gave me information that's super valuable for me, so I'm going to apply it to my life. And I don't got to go down that road that, my mentor went down and what he had to struggle. Now I can shortcut it a little bit and not have to go through it. And of course, you might want to go through it. I'm a hard-headed person that, my dad was a big person in my life that gave me so much advice and so much guidance. But, sometimes you get into that stage of life where you don't want to listen to no one. You think you're right. You think you know it all. So you just keep on going forward and you say, my way is the right way. Not knowing that my dad went through a lot of things that I went through, that I had to experience, that I lived. And my dad was just trying to tell me so I didn't have to live that life. But I'm a person that, my mentality was, I need to do it. And I need to feel how it is. I need to live it firsthand, and then I'll figure it out. And shoot, I've gone through so much things in my life, catching cases, being an alcoholic, a drug addict, all this stuff that could have been avoided. But, that was my process. That was my life. And, I appreciated everything that I've gone through, every lesson that I lived. But now I understand, what? My dad was trying to give me the best advice from me. And sometimes we think that's just lecturing us, scolding us, just trying to get us in trouble. Always, my dad's just trying to talk some smack to me. Oh, my mom's trying to talk some smack to me. They don't know. But yet again, we don't know what they lived. They only tell us what we want to know because they don't want us to know everything or to feel bad for them. But our parents went through so much that sometimes they got the knowledge that we need. So parents are super important mentors in our lives. You know, they're the first mentors we have because they start guiding us and telling us exactly what we need to do. And like I said, sometimes we take it as they're getting us in trouble. They're just trying to give me a lecture. Oh, here we go again. Until we get older, and then we realize, you know what? They were right. They were right the whole time. And then we go back to our parents and tell them, hey, you know what? You're right. I was a young, dumb kid and I didn't understand it. But now that I'm older, now I understand what you went through and what I had to go through. And I see that everything you were telling me wasn't just to get me in trouble or give me a lecture, but it was something to open my eyes so I didn't have to go down that path. And you realize that, okay, now your kids might do the same thing that you did, what your dad did. And you know, it can transition, keep on going down. But, you know, it's just being able to take it, you know, taking criticism, taking that advice that people give you and actually taking action on it, you know, applying it to your life and not have to go through everything that those people went through, and you can live it through them and not through you. You know, so you know, also builds your character, builds the person who you are when you're going through all that. You know, you understand some of the values that they bring to your life, and you just apply it to your own life, and you start living a different way. You know, it could be integrity, it can be your values, it can be, you know, the way you approach yourself and how you are. All these little things that can build so much on your life and build your character. And your character is everything. You know, being able to stand up and be who you are. You know, say what you're gonna do and do what you do what you're gonna say. You know, super important in our careers and as a leaders. A lot of people see that, you know, so getting those character, you know, getting all that information, you know, all those values from our mentors and being able to apply it and see that they live it, they do it. Well, shoot, I'm gonna do it the same thing, you know, and I'm gonna live with that success and that those keys that they have given me to be able to go forward and do what I need to do. Pride delays what humility accelerates. You know, pride, ego, that's a killer. Pride and ego can kill you, can kill your whole career, can kill everything that you're doing. You know, sometimes we're so prideful to ask for help and be scared to ask someone, hey, you know what, I might not be able to do this currently. I know you can. How can you help me? What can I do differently? What do I need to do differently to have a different result than I currently do have? And sometimes as men, you know, I'll talk to us as men, I'm a man. I shouldn't ask for help. And that's what shuts us down so much in life, you know, being a man and saying, I don't need help, but everybody in life needs a little bit of help. And it shows you're more of a man if you're willing to ask for help. If I don't know it, okay, I don't know it. Let me go see how I can figure this out. There's someone out there that does know it. And why not takes his advice? Maybe he's an expert at what you're looking for, and he can show you exactly how you do it and cut some time down of you trying to figure it out, you know, and being humble enough to know that you don't know everything, and being able to accept those mentors that come into your life and be like, hey, you know what, I don't know everything, but I'm willing to learn. And when you're willing to learn, guess what? You grow even more. You add more value to yourself. You make yourself more valuable for whatever career path you decide to take in your life. And people love when people are humble enough to say, you know what, I might not know it, but let's go figure this out. Let's go do this. Let's go see how we can do it. Let's go see how we can change this. You know, and that's super important, you know, not be prideful. Pride, man, that's why people get into fights. That's why there's gunshots and all this type of stuff, accidents, you know, because we're so prideful. We don't want to show, you know, some weakness, because in today's reality, we can't show weakness, and people think that I gotta be tough. I'm gonna pull out the gun and I'm gonna shoot you because I'm a man. But in reality, is that a man? Taking another man's life is showing that you're a man. I feel like being a man is walking away from the situation, de-escalating it, you know, and not being involved in it. Saying, you know what, you're right. I'm not gonna lose my life over this, you know, altercation. You're right, bro. I'm just gonna walk away and I'm gonna keep on enjoying my family and I'm gonna keep on enjoying my life. You know, you want to be right, you can go be right. And why commit a crime or commit an action that can cost you your life, but not only your life, but waste it away? It's brought in, you could say, in a prison, or with those consequences that you're going to face before the action that you've taken. You know, that's super important, you know, not being able to understand that, you know, because pride can get you in so much trouble. You know, being so prideful, and that's super important. I'll tell you firsthand, you know, me going through my career and doing all this stuff, being so prideful, not asking for help, and get away from me. I can do it. I can do this and that, you know, and I'll give examples. What humbled me, what made me more humble and have that humbleness in my life was my car accident in 2019. You know, being able to understand that I had a colostomy bag stuck to my stomach. I couldn't lift more than 50 pounds. The limit was 25. I couldn't stand up by myself. I couldn't get out of bed by myself. That showed me humbled me a lot in life. Humbled me super, super much in my life, knowing that I had to ask for help. I had to say, hey, you know what? Can you help me out with this because I can't do it? I had to tell my roommate at that time, you know what? Hey, bro, he already knew. As soon as I woke up, he'll get to the room and tell me, hey, you know what? I got you. Boom, he'll lift me up. My mom would come into the room, hey, you know what? I'm going to lift you up. My mom would help me change my clothes because I couldn't even lift my hands up from the accident that I had. And that just makes you humble yourself even more when you got to ask for help in order to do everything. Imagine not being able to get up out of bed because you can't physically do it from the accident that you had, that you got to depend on someone. So you humble yourself. You know what? I'm not a superhuman. I don't have it all, all these powers. I don't think I'm the most powerful no more. Yeah, you can think that, but there's going to be situations that humbles you. Like I said, 2019, that car accident, head-on collision that almost took my life. I had trouble walking, had trouble getting out of bed, had trouble changing. I couldn't lay down at a certain angle of my stomach because my stomach would hit. So much pain, but you know what? It humbled me to understand that I'm human like everybody else, and I'm not bigger than anybody else. And that showed me so much in my life that made me just humble myself 100% and be able to ask for help. Understand that, And for me, being humble and not being so prideful. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask if you don't know something. That makes you more powerful in life. Shows, that, hey, you know what? He doesn't know it, but he's willing to ask. I'm willing to help him. Compared to being that person that says, I know everything. I'm going to give you guys this little phrase that I love so much, The day you think you know everything is the day that you die. You don't die when you get buried down into your grave. You die when you think you know everything. That I don't got nothing else to learn. Because life is the biggest school that we have. And we need to accept that we're going to learn every single day something new. But if you think you're not going to learn no more, that, oh, I learned everything, oh, I know everything, that just shows you're a cocky and arrogant person. Be humble enough to know that you don't know everything. Because there's 1,000 ways to do something different. And maybe you do know how to do one thing one way. But there might be that person next to you that knows how to do it a faster, efficient, and quicker way. Well, why not learn his way? Why not be able to save some time and say, you know what, he knows a faster way than I do. Let me do it. Let me apply it. And guess what? You learn something new. So it's super important to be humble, not be so prideful in life, not let your ego take over in situations that it doesn't need to. And having that mentor sometimes just humbles you because they'll call you out on your bullshit. They'll tell you straight up, hey, you know what, you're messing up. You're messing up, dog. Get your head out your ass and let's get back to it. And that's why I respect Ben so much. Ben, shoot, bro, he's told me so many times in my career about that. Not only in my career, but in my life, my journey through life. My career, my job is one thing, but my life, my personal life, me and him have a super close connection. And he's told me stuff when I was messing up. Hey, bro, you're really messing up. Get your head out your ass. Oh, you're back in the bottom? Well, get your head out of your ass. Go hit the gym again. And just having that mentorship is super important. And like I said, sometimes that pride and that ego gets to you. And me and Ben have gone into some crazy, arguments, me and him. People trip out because they see us arguing, and we've gotten into it. Sometimes we let pride get in our way. 5 minutes later, we go back and we say, hey, you know what, you were right. Either one who was in the wrong, we say, you're right. I'm letting my pride and my ego get to me. So you know what, I'm understand. I accept I'm wrong. Let's do it this way. Let's get it over with. It's about, having that result, being able to, do the things the correct way. And that's super important to me. But let me give you guys a line of power. A mentor helps you avoid mistakes, confident to see coming. And like I said, sometimes that pride, you think you're super invincible, that you can do everything. And man, that to me is super crazy. Mentor helps you avoid mistakes you're too comfortable to see coming. That's super powerful, man. Super, super powerful. And like I just said a couple seconds ago, with the pride, sometimes we're too prideful and confident that it's gonna happen. But guess what? Our mentor's trying to tell us something because they lived it, they seen it, they experienced it, and they're just trying to help us avoid that mistake that we might be facing in a couple. We might be facing, and they want to help us avoid that mistake and not have to go through those challenges or have to go through what they experienced or lived. And it's super important to be able to listen to your mentors. If someone chose you to be your mentor, just listen to them because they're taking time out the day to be able to give you that advice, give you value to your life, and help you grow in a world where a lot of people don't want to see you grow. So, it's super important not to let your pride or your be so confident that something's going to go your way. And it's important, yeah, to be confident. But if someone tells you, you know what, I already did it this way, it's not going to happen. Don't get so prideful and say, no, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Because sometimes, I'm going to tell you straight up, when you get it wrong, you're going to go back and you're going to be like, you know what, you're right. You're right, bro. I'm sorry about that. I should have listened to you, and let's do it the right way. So that's super important, being able to listen to your mentors. Let's get into the next segment, the mentor test. The mentor test before they teach. Your mentor's always going to test you to see if you really want it. They're always going to test you. It says mentors don't invest in talent, they invest in faithfulness. Like I said, mentors want to see if you're really committed to doing what you want to do. And there's a phrase that I love so much from Ben. He always told me, it's not my development, it's self-development. How bad do you want to develop? How bad do you want to grow? Because I already lived it. I have the success you're looking for. It's not up to me. It's up to you. Are you going to commit and do what you need to do in order to get to where you want to be? Because I know what I'm doing. I've been through it, but you're still growing. You're still going through it, So are you committed? Do you have that faith that you can make things happen? Because like I just said, our mentors are investing their time in us, and sometimes they can be taking time away from their family, from their careers, or whatever the situation might be, but they want to invest in us. And to me, time is the most valuable thing we have in life. You know why? Because we can't ever get time back. We crash a car, we can always go get a car back. We lose a pair of shoes, we rip a pair of shoes, what do? We go buy another pair of shoes. But time, who can give us time back? If I wasted 3 years doing the same thing over and over again, who's going to give me those 3 years that I wasted back to my life? So if a mentors want to, put that faith in you, sometimes you need to do the same and be able to put that faith in yourself. Let's talk some points right here, because to see before opportunities. Being able to keep consistent. You can't expect because I did it 5 times, I'm going to get the results that I want. Sometimes it's going to be on that 6th time. And I'll give a quick example. I've talked about that story. Ben's talked about that story where I got a bunch of no's before I even got the opportunity to step up and have the position that I did have at one point. But I had to keep on doing it. If I would have just said, you know what, I'm not going to do it no more after the first 2 no's. Well, I wouldn't have gotten the opportunity that I got. So it's super important, to be consistent with before the opportunities come. And like I said, and I've said it, if that opportunity would have came to me, was I prepared? Was I in the right mindset to be able to accomplish and conquer what I really wanted to conquer? Or was I so ego-driven that I would have messed up my opportunity the first chance? So sometimes, being consistent and keeping on doing it and learning from the mistakes and keeping on growing is super important. When that opportunity does come, guess what? You're ready. You're ready to knock it out the park. You got that home run. Sometimes we want to hit the home run as soon as we get on the plate, but you know what's important? Being able to hit it on first. Because maybe you got someone on first that's going to second. Or maybe you hit the ball and guess what? You got 2 runs in because you made it to first base. So sometimes we want to make those home run hits, but sometimes we just got to be able to hit the ball out, and be able to get a run in, and understand it's not always going to be a home run, but if I get a hit, guess what? I'm making something happen. We can have a run in, we can, something might happen from that situation. Obedience before elevation. Sometimes we need to listen. Our way's not always going to work. But our mentor is going to teach us a way that does work. You can't elevate if you're not willing to listen. No one wants to work with someone who thinks he knows it all. Everybody thinks sometimes because I'm the most talented person on the team, everybody got to listen to me. Nah, man, sometimes people don't even want to play with you because you're so arrogant and cocky that you don't listen to no one. You think that you're above practice. You're above studying the plays. You're above, connecting with your team and having those relationships to build a greater bond. And that's super important, being able to listen. That's why God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth. Be able to listen more than we talk. Being able to listen more than we talk. And sometimes from you listening to people, guess what? You get a great idea out of it. And you move from that idea and you keep on doing other things. So being able to, to obey sometimes. I was a kid that didn't obey no laws. I didn't really care about nothing. But eventually I knew I had to understand and I had to listen. I had to stop, taking those actions and listen to people. People who lived what I was living, who experienced what I experienced. I had to understand that and listen to them. Because they had advice that was going to help me in the long run. And that has helped me in the long run so much. It's super important. Character before influence. Building your character. People don't want to be with someone who doesn't have the character in line, I could tell you all these things that I yeah, this and this and that, I'm gonna tell you to do something, but guess what? If I can't do it, or if I don't practice what I preach, do you think people are actually gonna listen to me? You think I can influence on people's lives if I don't practice what I preach? That I don't do what I say? Being able to do what you say is super important. Say, I'm gonna get this done at this time. Guess what? It gotta be done at that time. Because if not, people are gonna be like, man, he just talks out his ass. I don't listen to him. He doesn't have no influence on me. Being able to connect with people because you do what you say. Everything that you say you're gonna do, you do it. That's super important to have. Being able to not do those things that you tell other people not to do, because no one's going to listen to you. So it's super important. Let me hit you with another powerful line. If you can't be trusted with correction, you can't be trusted with the calling. Think about it. If you can't be trusted with correction, you can't be trusted with calling. If you can't accept you're being corrected when your time is up, ain't nobody going to give it to you. Or if you can't correct correctly, people ain't going to listen to you. Having a position doesn't mean that you have the power. Having a position is to elevate other people up, to be able to inspire and change people's lives, to help them grow. Because at one point in your life, you were in the same position those people were, and you had help, and someone elevated you up. So it's your time to be able to elevate other people up and be able to correct them correctly. Not because I have a position, because I said so, because I'm the boss. Ain't nobody respect that. Hell no, I learned that. I don't tell people because I'm the boss. I tell them, hey, you know what, because it's the correct thing to do. I'm willing to do it. Well, let's all be on the same page and let's all be willing to do it. I'm correcting you because, I want to help you. I'm not correcting you because I'm trying to get you in trouble. I see potential in you. I want to help you grow. Oh, that's super important. This next one, the mirror moment. Me and Ben got an episode coming up soon about this, and it's super important. Like Ben said, The Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson. Sometimes you need to see that man in the mirror, that person that's standing right in front of us that we look at every single day we wake up, when we brush our teeth, when we go wash our face. That person. Do you hold yourself accountable? Do you do what you say? Do you say what you do? Think about it. Let's ask these. Let me do these questions quick. What did mentorship expose about your habits? I can tell you I had some bad habits. Getting high every day, getting drunk every day, doing the wrong things. I did everything wrong. And it made me realize that I had to change my habits. I had to stop drinking. I had to stop smoking. If I wanted to grow and elevate and have the respect of the people, my habits had to change. Every single day at the bar, going to the homie's house, getting high, doing all these things wasn't progressing my progress, wasn't progressing my career, it wasn't moving me up. It was just keeping me stuck, being stuck. And that water that gets stuck right there, and you can say in the bathtub, eventually, it smells bad, it gets disgusting, and that's the same thing that you're gonna happen, with your habits, having bad habits and not being able to change it. Guess what? Nothing's gonna happen. Your life's gonna stay the same, and if not, it's gonna get worse. Being able to see, my mentor Ben, and even my other mentor, that one I talk about a lot, they exposed my habits. And they told me straight up. They never sugarcoated. They told me straight up, you talk about all this, but you're still drinking. You're still smoking. And this was the start of my career. And I still did it, When I first was, I believe I was like 23, 24 years old. I'm currently 31. And, I was still doing the same thing. And my boss told me, my Ben, my mentor, he told me, what? I understand, we all go through it, but if you want to elevate, you got to leave that behind. You got to leave those habits. Those habits have nothing good for you. And that, the good habits started to come in, reading books, exercising, doing all these things that were making a positive in my life and not having a negative on it. That was super, super big in my life, having those habits, those bad habits get out of my life, but creating new habits, better habits, What feedback hurt but saved you? Man, I've talked about it. I've talked about it in the interviews with Ben. The day I got fired, that was a big one. I've had a couple with Ben. But the day I got fired, the day Ben fired me, because I was messing up. And before that, Ben was already correcting me, telling me exactly where I was messing up. There comes to a point where in our lives, we don't want to listen no more. We're like, forget that, man. He's just, what does he know? What does he really know about it? But it saved me completely. It brought me to elevate my thinking even more than I already was. I was right here, but it jumped me to that next level of my life. Getting fired and saying, you know what, I need to get my life back together. I need to bet on myself more than I bet on anybody else, and work on myself and build my progress. And if it wasn't for that, this podcast wouldn't be running. I wouldn't be creating all this content. I wouldn't have been able to stand on stage and talk to other people and inspire people's lives, I wouldn't be able to have all these great opportunities that keep on coming to my life, and being able to bless those with my information, with my knowledge, with my experience, that saved me big time, and there's other moments in my life, where I had to learn to control my emotions. That was another big one that I'll talk about, being able to control my emotions, not reacting to everything that happens to me. Sometimes, I'll say it as a Latino, we react based off our emotions. We're so emotional sometimes, and I hope I don't offend nobody, but sometimes we're driven by emotion. Because this guy looked at me wrong, I'm gonna go start some shit with him. Or because this person said something, F you. And we're driven by emotion and not by, our mind thinking clearly about it before we take a decision. Sometimes it could be emotions off of happiness, off of sadness, all these type of reactions that we do have. And Ben telling me, hey, stop reacting with emotion, but think clearly before you take a decision. And I was a person that used to talk, hey, yeah, but that's who I was. Sometimes I do, depending on the person that I'm with. But understanding that sometimes I would scare people. Some people think, hey, he's mad. Oh, shoot, he's mad. But sometimes I'm so hyped up and happy, and I'm over here talking with my hands. But I learned not to talk with my hands and just keep them down by my hand, by my legs, by my, my shoulders, not on my shoulders, my elbows, and all this, And I learned to be able to talk, in a calmly manner. And I watched this video one time. I forgot who it was, but I was watching this video, and it says, hey, why do you talk so low? And the person was like, I talk so low so people can listen. Because if I talk loud, guess what? Nobody's going to listen. No one's going to take me serious. But if I talk low, guess what people are going to do? They're going to have to, they're forced to listen to what I'm saying. And they pay attention to what I'm saying. So, those are some things that, Ben helped me out a lot, man. I always give him great thanks for everything that he's done for me and helped me with. That feedback hurt me. It killed me for a couple days, but eventually I got over it and I knew life goes on. I got to keep on going forward. I got to keep on growing. I got to make moves and I got to leave an impact on people's lives. So, this is a mistake that I corrected. I go back, and I don't let mistakes define me. I define my own life. My actions define it, So if I might have made a mistake, I ain't that person no more. I grew. I elevated. I evolved. So I'm better than I was before. So you cannot take my mistakes that I did in the past, who I am today. You can judge me. But you judging me doesn't define who I am. You could think anything that you want, but I know who I am. The man up above knows who I am and who I become. So let's get into the next one. What version of you had to be unlearned? Shoot, like I said, that drinking, getting high every single day, getting drunk, being an angry person and thinking that if I talked in a deep demeanor manner, in a mean, angry voice, people were gonna listen to me. But that just told people, what, fuck you, man. I'm gone. I'm not listening to you. 'Cause he's always so angry. And that, to me, I had to learn it. If I want to have influence on people's lives, I couldn't go out drinking every single day. I couldn't go smoke every single day. I couldn't be doing things that I did. Because what impact would I have on people's lives if I did that? None. This guy's out here getting high every single day. He's over here in his car getting high. Oh, he's over here at the bar. I see him at the bar every single night after work. What credibility does that give to my character and who I am? Not much. So, I had to learn, to stop having those bad habits of drinking and smoking it and, being able to calm myself down. Being calm in situations and thinking with my mind, with my brain and not my emotions. Those were some things that I had to learn to be able to change in order to grow. Because if I wouldn't have done that, I wouldn't have been able to grow. People wouldn't have took me seriously. And once I did control all that stuff, guess what? People took me serious. People listened to me when I would talk. So those things right there are super important, for me, being able to unlearn that, because those were habits that I had for years, smoking and drinking. I started smoking and drinking when I was like 14 years old. I started smoking when I was about 14 years old, Drinking, I really caught it up when I was 18. So those were habits that I've had for over 10 years. So it was kind of hard. I had to live that life that I know. In order for me to be calm, I got to smoke every single day. That calms me down. But that was just me avoiding something that I had to face. Maybe I had a problem and I would go get high so I wouldn't be able to face the problem that I had. I would go get drunk. Okay, I'm going to go get drunk. And guess what? That trouble that I had today at work, I forget about it. Next day I go back to work and guess what? I had to face the problems that I had. So I was escaping reality for a moment. Really think about it. Sometimes we do it because we escape reality for a moment. But eventually we got to face every single problem that we have in our lives. We can't always run from our problems. So I had to learn all that stuff, and like I said, being able to be calm and not react to everything. That's an opinion of a person that he has towards me. And that's how he feels about me. Maybe he has something going on in his day and he takes it out on me. That's your opinion. Your opinion doesn't pay my bills. And if it's of course, if it's something to help me grow, of course I listen. You give me feedback, I'll take it. I'll take it. But I seen it the other day. There's like, watch who's giving you feedback. Does that person have the lifestyle that you want? Sometimes people are just gonna criticize you. So it's important, to take that into consideration. Like I said, those are a version of me that I had to let go. That wasn't the Juan I was now or who I am today. That was Juan from 2019, 2018. You could say 2020. That's who I was. That version of Juan who would get high, drunk every single day. That's all I worried about. That's all I wanted. Being angry all the time. Being angry at the world, not even knowing why I was angry at the world. But I'd take it out on everybody else, But learning not to be angry, enjoying life, loving life, and not having to have those addictions to be able to save me no more. Reading books is what saves me now. Going to the gym saves me. Having conversation with my friends saves me. So that's super important. And I'm glad I become the version who I am today. But true, man, I'm only getting better every single day, 10% better, like I've always said. Always working on getting better. So let's get into this power line. Growth begins the moment excuses end. How many of us put excuses for everything that we do? Well, I can't grow because this person doesn't let me grow. I can't lose weight because this is how I am. But you're not going to the gym. You're not going to stop eating the food that you're eating, knowing that it causes you to be in the position that you are. But we always want to put excuses. We want to put the blame on other people besides the number one person whose, actions caused everything to happen. The man in the mirror. But we want to blame everybody else. We want to blame the world for everything. I blame the government because I'm in this position. But what actions did you take to get into that place? I'm poor because of the government. Oh. What are you doing to make more money? What are you doing to get a better job? But you're just satisfied making those, I don't know how much people make, but, making $500, $600, whatever you're at, making minimum wage. You accept that. You want to live that life. But you're not willing to let go of the mistakes and be like, hey, what do I got to do to make more money? What do you need from me? What are your expectations of me to be able to make more money? What do I got to do to lose weight? I got to stop eating these fast food spots. I got to stop eating pasta. I gotta stop eating late. I gotta cut out the soda. Why am I? Oh, I'm always angry. That's how I am. Oh, I'm this way. No, everything's unlearnable. You can learn to be a new person. Leave those old habits and become better. When your excuses stop, the results come. Think about it, because it's true. Stop putting excuses for everything that you have in your life, but actually take action instead of excuses. So that's super important, guys. Discerning the right mentor. What to look for in a mentor. Integrity over image. Standards over popularity. Peace over pressure. Sometimes we want to get that mentor that we think that is the right one, but shoot, maybe he doesn't. He's just playing a front. He doesn't have everything that he's talking about. But he's, I'll give an example, man. There's a lot of people out there, influencers, that are selling, how can you call it? They're selling a presentation. And they're talking to you. They're talking to you all sweet. But in reality, do they have what they actually say they have? Or is it a front? Do they lease that Lambo that they got? Are they living in some bougie apartments but can barely afford to pay it? Sometimes that we see all this stuff in social media and living in today's society that a lot of people fake their lifestyle. I got this big old chain. Is it real? Is it fake? Are you making payments on it? But you're fronting the lifestyle? And sometimes, people do that. And sometimes mentors can do that. They act like they know everything, but in reality they don't. They just, like I said, they talk it, but they don't practice it, And to me, like I said, those two mentors that I have and my dad, they live by this, They don't care about popularity. They care about helping other people grow, helping other people out. And, they're peaceful people now. They don't look for problems. They look for peace. They find solution. Integrity, integrity being the person that they say who they are and living by that way, and standing up to what they believe in. What to avoid. Access without accountability. Advice without alignment, success without substance. And like I just said currently, there's a lot of influence out there who say they got all this stuff, but in reality, they don't. How do they make some money? By making a course and reading a book. And I always tell people this, I can read 10 books and I can make, a presentation and sell a course to you for $200. Say I get 10 people to go, how much did I just make? For an event that I can do for an hour. And I just talk about this book. But sometimes people ain't willing to give the actions that they did, the work that they did in order to get there. But I could talk to you about a book and tell you all the stuff that the book said. And if you apply this book to your life, that you're going to have massive change. But guess what? I'm making money off the people just by talking to them about a book, taking notes on this book, and then going to speak about the book to other people. And I do this 5 times, 10 times. How much money did I just make? But I'm not actually giving real advice. I'm being fake to the people, just talking to them about a book. That's sometimes what you gotta really see. Do they have what they say? Are they living the way they are talking about, living? Do they stand up for the stuff that they actually say they stand up? Or just when you're in front of them? Not everyone ahead of you is assigned to you. Sometimes not everybody that, like I just said, not everybody sometimes is the right person in your life. Sometimes you gotta move away from people. And just because you see some, like I just said a couple seconds ago, just because this person got a Lambo, got all this kind of stuff, doesn't mean they got success. They can be faking it. Or maybe that mentor isn't meant for you because you guys don't align with the same values, with the same thinking, and sometimes you gotta go find someone else. So let's get into the next topic, the spiritual side of mentorship. Ooh, this tastes great. The spiritual side of mentorship. Ooh, that's powerful. God often answers prayers through people. And I'm a firm believer of that. Everybody's placed in our life for a reason, either a lesson or a blessing. A lesson or a blessing. That's what everybody's placed in our lives for. What did this person teach me? Or what did I learn from this person? And sometimes we're asking God for some advice, for some help, and He's gonna place those people in our lives. Like I said, that's what I believe in God. So, but whatever you believe in, that's keep it to your faith. But I did a reel not too long ago. It's like God places the right person in your life. The right mentor, because He's meant to be there and be able to help you and guide you. And it's super important. That the right person comes to your life to help you. But like I said, those 2 mentors that I got, I'm grateful for the man above who placed them in my life that helps me every single day. And we have a strong connection to be able to grow together. And they're willing to help me out and put, their time to help me grow. Mentors confirm direction, not replaced by God. Mentors confirm direction, not replaced by God. God is God. That's my Lord and Savior, and I respect Him and I love Him to death. And without Him, I wouldn't be here. I really wouldn't. But mentors direct you. They can tell you when you're messing up. They can tell you if you're going down the right path, or you're swerving out to a different lane. That's super important. Being able to take that direction from them. They're helping you, guiding you. Maybe they just trying to see the best version of you come out, and not trying to see you fall into those footsteps, or maybe fall back to those bad habits that you once had. So that's super important, being able to listen to it. If they're willing to take time out their day, keep on saying it, if they're willing to take time out their day to help you, mentor you, inspire you, push you, motivate you, well, why not take it serious? Because like I said, time is the most important thing that we have in our lives. Don't think money is. Money comes and goes. Money's just a piece of paper. You define what the value of money is. But the important thing is your family. And of course, I know people are going to be like, oh, money's everything. Without money, you can't do nothing. Oh, yeah, I definitely believe that. But would you lose your family for $1 million? Would you lose your health for $1 million? Really think about that. What's more important? Would you lose your life and then 30 years pass by? Really think about it. What's more important? You bring the value to the money, not the money brings value to you. Yeah, it helps you do a lot of things that you wanna do. It solves a lot of problems, don't get me wrong, but I can tell you there's people out there in third world countries and other places that without money live happier than we do. What's the point of having all this money if you're miserable, if you hate life? You got all this money and you're alone. That's just a little quick fact that I wanted to shoot out there. Mentorship is guidance, not worship. Don't worship nobody besides man up above. Listen to his advice, let him guide you to success, but don't worship nobody in our lives besides God, of course. Or like I said, whatever you do believe in. Let's get into this last closing segment, becoming the mentor. At some point you stop asking who's guiding me and start asking who am I responsible for. At this point in my life, my mentors have shown me a lot, and I've taken a lot of people under my wing to help them, guide them, help them become a better version of themselves, and give them advice. I'm to the point where I've been mentored quite a bit now that I feel like maybe it's time for me to step up and show those people the same thing that my mentors taught me. And I'll give you guys this little fun story. One time, this person told me, oh, you're just like Ben. But what do you expect if I worked for Ben 6 to 7 years already? I've had that friendship with Ben for 7 years. You don't expect me to come kind of like him, or if I'm always constantly hanging out with him, always talking to him. I learn from him. Of course, I'm going to do some of the things he did. Of course, some of his advice stuck to my head, and I say some of the things that he says. I've been mentored by him for 7 years. What do you expect? Of course, I become it, and I give sometimes. I always tell people when I talk to them, and I'm gonna give you some advice Ben gave me, and I just shoot it to them, And I'll just give this quick story. The other day, I was talking to someone, and he was telling me, what, I'm not moving forward. I'm not growing. This person over here and that person over here, and what about you? And I had to tell him, hey, bro, I'm gonna give you this. I'm gonna hit you with this line Ben always hit me with. Comparison is a thief of all joy. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Lock in, focus on yourself. What can you do to be better? It's not what can I get from the world, but what can I leave in this world to make it better? So, just right there's a story of me mentoring other people and giving them advice. And it's been so many people that I've been able to sit down with and inspire and give them mentorship and guidance and help them out a little bit, And it's so satisfying to be able to help other people out, to give them that mentorship, to guide them and move them forward from the position that they were once in. It's not always about the money, but it's about helping people and being able to impact people's lives and change that, leading with patience and truth. Like I said, I wasn't a patient person. I would get mad quick, and I'd always want things done quick and fast my way. Learning to be patient, understanding people, and telling them the truth is super important. Sometimes the truth hurts, but sometimes people need to hear the truth. People need to hear when they're messing up. People when they're messing up and doing the wrong thing and they think it's the right thing, like, hey man, I'm gonna pull you aside, I'm gonna take you under my shoulder and tell you, hey, you know what, that's not the right thing to do. And sometimes they think it is, but you tell them the reason why. And be patient with them, show them kindness, give them time. And when you do that for people, people appreciate it. Because they see, okay, he has patience with me. I might not be able to do it, or, do it well, but he keeps on coaching me, keeps on helping me to get better. And that's what people actually like, people who have patience to help other people grow. Correcting without crushing. You ain't got to crush nobody's feelings, put no one down to correct them. Like I said, sometimes Ben will pull me to the side or take me out back and tell me, hey, bro, get your shit out, get your head out your ass. You're messing up. Do it correctly. And he would never talk smack in front of anybody in front of me. He would always pull me to the side and always coach me, in private, never in public. And I always respected him for that. And you don't got to crush people down and tell people, hey, that's wrong. You're doing it wrong. That crushes people's souls and pushes, people don't want to work there no more. People don't want to work for you. But why not pull people to the side and talk to them privately? Hey man, this is what I've seen. This is what you're doing wrong, and what can we do to correct it? What is happening that you're not doing the thing correctly? What can we do to help you? Being able to correct without crushing people's, crushing them, making them feel like they're nothing. We're all important in life. We all have a purpose. Modeling discipline and not perfection. We all make mistakes. I've made plenty of mistakes in my life, and I still, of course, make mistakes. But I show people I'm not perfect all the time. I might do something wrong, but hey, you know what? I'm human. I'm gonna make mistakes, but I'm gonna correct what I did wrong. That's super important. Like I said, well, nobody's perfect in life. Nobody's gonna be perfect. There's only one man that was perfect, and he's not here. Other than that, we all have mistakes. We all have our flaws. So it's important, to model discipline. If I do something wrong, I correct it. I move forward. And I live by those actions that I do take. Your ceiling should become someone else's floor. Elevate, help people come up. Your ceiling should become someone else's floor. You understand it? Let's elevate people up. Let's move people up. Let's help people grow. Let's help people get into the position you are in, and don't be afraid. Because when you elevate other people up, you elevate yourself. You help someone get promoted to your position, guess what? You promote yourself to someone, to a different position. And that's what it's all about, helping other people. But with that being said, I'm going to give you guys some questions to ask yourself. Who is mentoring me right now? Am I actually applying what I've been taught? And who is watching my life as an example? Three questions to ask yourself. Who's mentoring me right now? Who can mentor me? Who can help me? Am I applying what I've been taught? Are you doing what you're getting shown? And who's watching me? Could be your kids. Could be your wife. It could be your little brother, your big brother, your cousin, a friend. People always watching you and seeing what you're doing, and sometimes they're happy and proud of what you're doing. They'll be like, hey, you know what? I want to be just like him. Because he lives what he says. He does what he says. He's an example, and I want to be just like him. You know, let's this week don't ask for mentorship, earn it. Show consistency, show humility, show growth. This is legacy leaders. Build wisely, lead faithfully, leave something that outlives you. And with that being said, it's Legacy Leaders 25. I'm out.